Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Welcome, my friend, to another daily motivation stream where we are going to try to get some work done with our writing, as we do every day, or as we try to do every day. We're going to be pushing into one solid writing sprint today. You know what we've been doing. We're going to do one 40-minute writing sprint and try to see if we can be a little consistent. Today's Friday, so today is always a great day to see, hey, maybe I have some ideas and see what work we can get in for the weekend. So let's push through today. Let's see what consistency we can push. Or maybe if you're taking a break, like, hey, I've been running all day, you can join us in the chat and we'll kind of chat up and see what's on each other's minds for those of us who are just wanting a little break to talk with some of the other writers. By the way, welcome. I'm Kaufman, daily writing streamer, dragon enthusiast, and working, as we all know, on The Last Scarecrow, a dark fantasy action-adventure story. I think Scarecrow is about to try to have an epic speech that it's probably going to go sideways. So we're going to see how that turns out in this section. All right, my friends. Thank you all for joining me. As you can see, I already have the software all set up with 40 minutes on the clock. So I'm going to push into it and see what I can accomplish today. Whether you're brainstorming, writing, editing, revising, or anything in between, come join us because it's time to write now. All right, my friends, writing sprint done. Writing sprint done. How did that writing sprint treat you? Were you able to make any progress today? Hopefully. And I saw some new faces. I saw some of you guys trying to make some progress in the chat. Sounds like we got some words in, some ideas, and a little bit of editing, revising, brainstorming, and some things in between. Hopefully you were able to get a little bit of work in. I'm glad I was able to finish that beat. I was able to finish that story beat. Yeah, and even as I mean, I went through that part of the chapter pretty quickly. I have to decide if I'm at a point where I have to decide if I need to split this chapter up. Yeah, because I think this chapter is about 16-ish pages, and I think I still have another 15 for the rest of the escape. That's what I was trying to decide, because I'm kind of at a break. I'm kind of at a break in the part of the escape. It's because I think the next part we're about to go into, we're setting up for a fight. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking through. I'm looking through the draft right now because I'm trying to make a decision on my end. Wow. Yeah. Wow. The back end of this chapter is much longer than I anticipated before the fight starts. Wow, that would make the chapter at 40 pages if I had kept it like that. That's funny. Oh man, interesting. Yeah, clearly I'm gonna have to divide the chapter up. Oh, that's funny. Okay. So clearly I was able to make some progress on my end. Hopefully you're able to make some progress as well. Always such a fun thing. I know I'm at such a great part of Scarecrow, and definitely really loving what I was able to put together. Thank you all for joining me today for another daily writing sprint. As you know, we're all just trying to get some progress as we go into the weekend. Now, what we got covered for this weekend, we have a couple things coming up. So tomorrow's stream, we're going to be focusing on making covers. I've invited a guest, and we will be talking about how do you do cover design. We're going to be focusing on Canva, because Canva is an easily accessible platform for making cover designs, and it's very, very budget friendly. So we're going to be going into that. We will also be talking about the Fated Fantasy Anthology. So we'll be diving into the Fated Fantasy Anthology tomorrow. We'll be touching on it during a special Saturday stream. We'll be here. Our early time on weekends, 1 Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Yep, 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. And it's going to be a great stream. Sunday, we'll be back with the August Writing Challenge. I'll see if we'll be joined by any other writers in the community who are also helping us with, or who are also working on the August Challenge as we're trying to make some progress on our stories. Whether you're doing the 18,000 words, 48, or 80,000 words for the month, all are welcome as we're trying to get back into having that consistent writing routine as we're getting back into the fall very soon. We're already halfway through August, which means fall is just around the corner. And for those of you who are the YouTube channel members, the critique, our private critique group, which I think I'm going to call Critique right now, is on Sunday as well. So whether you have something to bring or you just want to listen to some of the other writers' stories in the community, that's going to be Sunday. That is our private critique group. If you want to join or you want to learn more, just click on the join button down below the YouTube, this live stream, and you'll be able to see more. It gives you more info about becoming a YouTube channel member. So awesome. Thanks all for joining me today. It's been an absolutely great stream. I am Wish that I had more time. I want to keep working on Scarecrow every single time. Hopefully my September schedule opens up a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. Excellent, Courtney. Love to hear that. I'm like definitely looking forward to all the things, both our August challenge and our critique group. We always get really good feedback on our channel member critique group. So if you're like needing feedback on a story, but you don't want it to be on a live stream format, you want it with a closed group, and you'll get feedback from different writers and myself included. The channel member critique group is always a really good experience. And I want to say this is like our 8th or 9th one, I believe. So we've gotten some solid critique groups so far. But yes, thank you all so much for joining. It's been great. But unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. Words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write
Right now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now. Is that right?